After making tens of thousands of cold calls and talking to strangers on the phone, I've realized one thing, that the scripts doesn't actually matter that much. And if you are still struggling with making sales or trying to be more social, talking to strangers and relying on scripts and can't break through, this video might give you some inspirations and ideas. You see that a lot of these sales gurus are teaching you the sales tactics or dating tactics by giving you a bunch of scripts and making you memorize their materials verbatim and spending a lot of time doing the role plays and this and that. I kind of feel that a lot of those trainings are kind of backward because I am a big believer of before you do anything, you got to know why you want to do that before you figure out what to do and how to do it. And these sales trainings, a lot of times, they're focusing on the what and the how, but they're not necessarily helping you align with your why. You see, once you have a strong why, your how and the what would automatically take care of itself. But don't believe me? Let me give you a couple of examples. I'm sure you can find a lot of similar examples in your life too. So let's say you work an office job. I don't know if you have ever done that. Just imagine, your boss gives you a task and asks you, can you call that bank or that whatever vendor before you go to lunch? Here's a phone number and here's the person's name and here's the reason why you need to call that bank. Check on that whatever account. We've been waiting for that account for 35 days or whatever. The payment has not arrived yet. And your boss is not going to give you a verbatim script on this is what to say to Mr. So and so from that bank. The boss just gave you a strong why, a clear why. Once you understand the why, guess what? You know exactly what to say and how to say it when you call that bank, right? And me as another example, back in the days when I used to learn English as a second language, I wanted to make friends in my school, and the school was full of other international students that don't necessarily speak my native language, and we don't speak English that well either. But how do we communicate? Well, we communicate by using a strong why, right? Want to go to lunch together, right? Want to grab a smoke together, or want to, go party together later, this and that. You don't necessarily know all the words, but guess what? You can you can even use your body language and all that to get your point across. You see, once you have a strong why and your action is aligned with your why, all the script does, or whatever the tonality training, all they do is just to make your communication more efficient and more effective. But even if you don't have a perfect script, you get your why, you get your point across perfectly fine. However, when it comes to sales, this is what's happening. You see a lot of people, they are trying to depend on the script. They're thinking that the script will be that magic bullet, that a cubic arrow, or whatever the case might be. That once you master the tonality, the verbatim, the rhythms, the pauses, all this stuff, it's going to be able to turn every no's into yeses. It's going to get every stranger to want to talk to you and give you money and go on a date with you. It's like a cubic arrow, right? The magic bullet, so that you can just take that weapon and hide in the dark and search for your next target and come out and boom. And guess what? You just get your next target. That's what a lot of people subconsciously think. They think that this magic script is going to be what saves the day. But in reality is that it doesn't really matter. There is no magic script that's going to be able to do that. Every decision is made mutually. You want something and the other person also wants something, and you guys both come together. There's nothing you can do to kind of hypnotize the other person through NLP, through whatever magic script, so that that person just do whatever you want them to do. It doesn't happen, and therefore you shouldn't even focus on trying to chase a perfect script. a perfect magic bullet because it doesn't exist. What you're trying to do is extend your offer and see who takes it, and then go from there. Only focus on the ones that reciprocate, not the ones that gives you a hard no. And if you're able to let go of that, then just let the intention drives you. You know, have your intention in place and then use that intention to guide you to make that offer. You already know why you should approach that person. And then the what and the how will take care of itself if you find a person who's willing to reciprocate. I'm sure you guys have all done something like that in the past, you know, by approaching to a stranger, exactly knowing why you want to do it. For example, let's say, you know, you see someone on the street that a person drops his wallet on the street, and you being a good person, you run over to that person. What do? Well, you lightly tap on that person's shoulder, gets that person's attention, and let the person know that, you know, excuse me, sir, you forgot your wallet on the table. That's all you do, right? Nobody needs to teach you the verbatim because you have the why. You know the why, and this is the why that not only the other person, you know, the other person would appreciate, but also you yourself is aligned with that, you know, motivation or motive. And approaching a stranger or making that sales call is no difference. You got to have your why in place. And if your focus is I want to call that person, that prospect, or I want to approach that stranger on the street with the intention of getting, purely getting whatever I want from that person, then yeah, obviously you're gonna need scripts and tactics. You're gonna, you know, pretend to be someone that you're not, and you're gonna try to hide your true intention, and you don't want that person to see what you're about. Then obviously, then you're gonna need to memorize a bunch of scripts and tactics. But no matter how good you are, just like what Mike Tyson once said, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. So what if that person call you out? That person already smells something and you're gonna fall apart because now you know your intention and your action is not aligned anymore because you got punched in the face. But on the other hand, right, if your true intention is not to get something from someone, but instead you want to approach someone by providing them value and see if that person is open to ideas that you may have. All you're doing is, you know, making an extension to your offer. And that action needs to be, first of all, okay with that's who you are. And in fact, that's exactly my thought process when I make cold calls to homeowners. And you know, yes, ultimately, I wanted to see if there's an opportunity. You know, if they're thinking of selling their home and don't have an agent, then obviously, you know, I would, you know, offer my service. That's the ultimate goal. But the initial approach, you know, you don't have that as a pure like a taking from someone. But instead, I want to offer values, and not only that, but I also want to do it in such a way that it's normalized and also it's okay with me as a person myself. So the way I do it is that, you know, I call you because there's a home down the road from you, one of your neighbors' home that were sold. And part of my job is to just call and let neighbors like you know what we've sold. That's it, you know. And also, while I have you on the phone, you know, I want to know if there's anything I could do for you, if you have any real estate plans. And I need to figure out a way to normalize this approach. And the way I do it is, you know, I used to work as a restaurant waiter. I don't know how many of you can relate, but as a restaurant waiter, I was, you know, I used to be told, you know, if you have nothing to do, just hold a pitcher of water, just walk around and check on every table to see how they're doing with their food. Do they need anything? Do they need more water? Do they need their bills? Do they want to order something else? Or take away some dirty dishes? That was what I was told to do. And I was doing it obviously, you know, when you approach these different tables, some tables are having intimate moments, you know, some are having conversations. And when I approach them, I am going to interrupt whatever they're doing, you know. And but guess what? Whether they like it or not, I tell myself that I'm doing my job. I'm a waiter and this is what I'm supposed to do, holding a pitcher of water or coffee to see how you guys are doing, if you guys need anything. Whether you're okay or not, I am okay with myself doing such things. And real estate hustling is no different. At least I made that alignment. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm calling you by reporting you some market specific information of your neighbor home sold. And I'm calling to see if you guys have any real estate needs. And that's it. All I'm doing is extending my hand to see if you guys need anything, if you want to take it. If you don't, if you say no, thank you for calling, then guess what? That's okay. I move on. Some people are definitely going to make a big deal out of it. There's going to be all kinds of people. Some people are going to be rude and angry and be like, "Why are you calling? This is not cool. You're annoying. This and that." I say what I say to get off the phone. That's a different thing. But internally, that does not create any self doubt in myself doing the actions. Why? Because this is an action that I'm deeply okay with, and I think that's the right thing to do. There's nothing wrong with doing such actions. See, when you have this strong why, and then your internal self identity is aligned with this why, then all these rejections, it might still stink, but it's not going to burn you out. It's not going to make you want to give up or quit. And that's really, all you really need before you learn any specific scripts or tactics. What you really need to get it down is the why. Why are you approaching that person? Are you approaching that person thinking that you can take something from that person? Or are you approaching that person because you have something valuable to offer? Maybe a genuine compliment to that person, or maybe some genuinely valuable piece of content that you want to offer to that person. And it's completely okay if that person does not appreciate or does not take, because that's not what you're about. What you're doing is you're offering value, you're doing what you think you're supposed to do, and then you want to see if there's an opportunity or an opening. If you have that mentality or a mindset, I guarantee you will come up with your own script or dialogue of what to say and how to say, because it's going to be 100% aligned with your intention, and people are going to feel it. People are going to genuinely tell you yes or no, or maybe later, or whatnot. And the ones that are going to be rude and angry at you, that you haven't done anything wrong because your action is aligned with your belief. Then it's not going to destroy you. So I want you guys to think in this train of thoughts, instead of focusing on memorizing the script line by line. I recommend you to take some time to actually think about what each line says and why they say what they say. Try to understand the why, and then evaluate if that why aligns with who you are or what you believe. What can you do to make who you are, your being, align with these actions? Once you get your internal down, then learning a script, mastering a script, or any conversation will become a lot easier. Anyways, I hope this video helps. I'll see you guys on the next one.